something like this. God said, I'm tired of you walking around in circles. It's time to break the cycle. Turn up. Let's go north. That's my remix on Deuteronomy chapter 2, verses 2 and 3. Deuteronomy chapter 2, verses 2 and 3. And I want to talk in these few moments about cycles I need to break in myself. Cycles I need to break in myself. Big Sean is Single Again. That's his latest hit, Single Again. And Big Sean in Single Again has the courage to be transparent about his own issues with mental health. Listen to Big Sean as he talks about the fact that he has dealt with depression. He finds himself oftentimes attacked by anxiety. And so Big Sean transparently testifies by raising this question in Single Again, and that is, what are you doing for your health? What are you doing for yourself?
All right, you're listening to the Breakdown with the Tribe here at Friendship West. We are the ratchet, righteous arm, right, of that game-changing Christian movement that is Friendship West Baptist Church here in Dallas, Texas, where the Reverend Dr. Frederick Douglass Haynes III is our senior pastor. What y'all think of that? How was that? Pretty cool?
That was good.
It was okay. So we're excited to be here with you tonight because this is a new journey we're on. This is the pilot of our Breakdown podcast and Bible study series. And so we're speaking on scripture and the culture because, watch this, we believe that the scriptures have something to say to the culture. Y'all not feeling me.
Okay,
Okay. I'm hype here because I'm with the homies Paige, Kiara, we got Chris Norman, the Normanologist, off camera working hard to make it happen. And tonight we're talking about cycles I need to break in myself. So the whole concept of the breakdown is when we lead a pregame, which is where the party happens, right? And we have this awesome and amazing worship service like we had where Pastor Haynes preached this awesome sermon. Then we come to the breakdown, Bible study, where we have a chance to do just that, to break down, further digest some of what we heard, what we experienced, what we saw, and what we felt. So that's what we're going to do tonight, have a little bit of conversation again from the scriptures and then from the culture, and allow them to have some conversation back and forth by virtue of the conversation we're getting ready to have here tonight. So going back to that powerful night, the pregame, our inaugural worship experience for young adults here at Friendship West, Pastor Haynes preached from Deuteronomy chapter 2 about cycles I need to break in myself. An awesome word that night that I think challenged a lot of people. And I'm ready to kind of get the convo started. Paige, talk to us about cycles. What was you thinking?
All right. Let's just kind of dive into the text real quick.
Yeah.
Deuteronomy 2 and 3 says,
Yes.
Then the Lord said to me, you have made your way around this hill country long enough. Now turn north. Just kind of reading this text reminds me of how we oftentimes find ourselves in a continued cycle or in a situation over and over again. It does not matter like where we start, where we try to change up to fix things, we end up back in the same situation we were kind of in.
Right.
Let's just kind of go back and redefine what a cycle is. A cycle is a series of events that occur regularly or repeated in the same order.
Okay.
Can any of you guys swim?
I am ashamed to acknowledge I cannot swim.
Oh.
I know. It's real bad.
Kiara, can you swim?
I can swim amazingly well. I think I should be on the Olympic team.
Okay, sis. Well, I cannot swim at all.
Two for one. There we go.
But it's like we jump in and we try to swim real hard, but we end up back in the same place when we come back from up under the water. And then we start to blame the water or my friends was in the way, but it was us.
Right.
We often tend to blame others on why we're in the same situations that we're in. And we need to reflect on us. So we blame others and we'll say, okay, well, it's my mama. That's the reason why I'm like this. Oh, my daddy left, so this is why I act this way. Or my ex is the reason why I got trust issues. But we need to look at ourselves and accept things that may have happened and just kind of move on from it. We can't allow things that have happened in our past to bind us mentally in the present and also what we can be in the future. The text mentions how God tells Moses, his people, to turn north. Do you know how many times God has tried to pull us out of our own cycles? We often miss that tap on our shoulder, like, hey, you I'm talking to you right here because we too busy caught up in our own trauma, our own problems, our own mess. But God right here, He trying to get us out, but we stay in. God is trying to tell us, you know, you've been in this thing long enough, so now let me lead you to a better life. But we just oftentimes we just miss that signal. We're not in tune with Him, so we just kind of be like, oh, I'm gonna still do whatever I want to do. So personally, I have been in my own set of cycles, and I be asking God, I need you to come through for you, girl, because I can't do this no more. And then I go back and I do the things that I was doing before, and I end up back up in that same cycle again. And I often wonder, like, how can He help me when I'm not even listening to Him? Like, I'm not even being obedient. Pastor also said something really good in his sermon about how some stuff has to die in order for us to live. We have to get rid of some of that emotional trauma or the baggage. We have to actually deal with things that happened in our past in order for us to even be successful in the future, you know?
Right. Man, okay, can we clap it up? Paige, I mean, bravo. I mean, yeah, so it's rich. No, it's rich. It's rich. I mean, I was thinking about that tap on the shoulder, right? The voice of God, like Deuteronomy chapter 2, Moses being able to be sensitive to the voice of God. I mean, that's just sort of a general theme in that portion of the scriptures, right? When God is leading the people through the wilderness. But it's like a thing that we take for granted if you think about it, right? That God spoke to Moses, right? And I really thought about that man, God's voice is not always the boom, right? Jeremiah, right? It's not the firestorm, it's not the earthquake, but it's that still small voice. And man, it's so important to develop a sort of spiritual sensitivity to the voice of God in order to be able to hear what God is saying, to be able to break the cycle. I mean, that's deep. That's rich for me.
But also, even when you are making time to hear that, literally that faint voice, what about when you have the crowd around you that don't necessarily know how to discern that voice?
They drown out the noise.
They don't know what the noise is, or they may feel as if, no, you just probably really do need to go talk to a therapist. Maybe you're just going crazy. So, or
maybe they raise the level of the noise, right? And so it becomes even harder to hear and distinguish that voice of God. That's deep. I'm with it. All right, you ready?
Yeah,
Talk
for
to
sure.
Us. The cycles.
So, as we're speaking of God saying you've been wandering around the hill, the country long enough, the hill country long enough to turn north. I know many times we probably feel as if because we got ourselves in this mess, we're the only ones who can get ourselves out of this mess. And specifically verse 2, at this time, Moses said, the Lord said to me, I want to make sure that we also raise up the faithfulness of God, because God could have easily ignored the people of Israel, because that's exactly what they did to God. So, however, God is only God can. He still interceded and spoke to Moses to redirect the people of Israel. So just because we got ourselves into whatever hole or depression, even depression that we got ourselves, that we feel as if maybe we're alone in, I definitely want to make sure we understand God did not go anywhere. Just because we decided to make decisions that weren't based off of what God told us, God did not go anywhere. God is still with us. Now, whether or not God is waiting for us to go ahead and say, okay, I submit, I am no longer making decisions for myself, that's going to be on us. And so also for verse 3, God intentionally says, you have been wandering around the hill. God explicitly making it clear that this wasn't my plan for you, going in circles, not making any progress. And again, keep in mind, this is 38, almost 40 years that these people are continuously deviating away from God's plan. And so look at how even God describes their traveling around the hill, wandering. Wandering means traveling aimlessly, drifting, and even rambling. So the saying that not all who wander are lost, the people of Israel, not all who wander are lost. Most definitely the people of Israel, they were doing, like I said, like I told you all before, doing a whole lot of this, a whole lot of that, but a bunch of nothing. They were definitely lost. And so this is if anything, the truest form of insanity, doing the same thing, expecting different results. But then again, if we're keeping it real, regardless of the amount of time a cycle is, we all have experienced cycles ourselves, right, Paige, like you just mentioned. So as far as understanding how long the cycle is for us, we may feel as if we're stuck. But I don't want to say the word stuck because we're not actually stuck. We're just complacent. And I think we choose to believe we're stuck because of the comfortability with complacement. We don't really want to actually feel that tension of discomfort of actually having to make moves away from the norm. And so we consciously couple our expectations and present reality to blind ourselves of the disappointments, the rejection, and the reality of our actual situation. Expecting different results, expecting people to change, expecting family acceptance, expecting financial freedom, and even expecting discrimination and racism to change. And so again, Paige, growing up, I heard, and Pastor McGruder, you are probably around the age range to where you heard this saying in the village.
Not that old, that's right.
LOL.
You're probably up there. So referring to starting to smell yourself, right? And so this was usually in the village I grew up in. Starting to smell yourself meant you were making decisions by yourself because you feel like you knew yourself exactly the results that were going to happen, or you knew better than the older folk. That's what I'm saying. Trying to be grown, feeling yourself. And so many times I can say for me, that's how many of my cycles started, because I know many times we look at exactly the cycle itself, but I don't think we actually look at the root of how the cycle started. And so quite often we have seasonal cycles that are fueled or re-energized by a lack of faith, or a lack of actually having that bird's eye view or God's eye view. So.
All right, clap it up again for just, I don't have the little button, but I would hit the clue bomb for both of y'all.
We gotta get one. We gotta get one.
The clue bomb for both of y'all. Super dope. Talk to me though about that difference between being stuck versus being complacent. Like how do I distinguish stuck versus stuck, which is maybe less so of my own doing, less so of my own sort of capacity and power, versus complacency, which is just me not really doing everything that I could do or put my best foot forward. Like how do I distinguish that? Or what's a good way to distinguish it? I think I have something in mind, but give me some insight from your perspective.
Okay, so stuck is, I'm referring to there is actually no way out.
Okay.
Gotcha. So not having any type of resources, but in this text, I want to make sure that this is what exactly people believe that they were. They were stuck. They weren't stuck, but I don't know if they really realized you had your main resource and provided with you the whole time. You just tend to be defiant about it. So that's exactly why stuck is not having any type of resource at all to get out of the situation. Being complacent is saying, okay, I'm okay with being comfortable with the results at hand. I'm not happy, but I'm complacent. And so those are the two different.
Satisfied with less than guys.
Satisfied with less.
Satisfied with less. Okay. Nah, I like something else you said is this idea of being lost, right? Like it's not just I don't think it's an individual experience. I wonder if that lostness is a generational thing. Like give us a word, both of y'all. I need give a word to that lost generation. Like get just some insight, right, from where you are, your perspective, your struggle with those cycles that you try to break. Like what's that word for that lost generation that's going around the mountain, right? Because that's where they were, right? Going around the mountain. For some of us, it's not going to be 40 years. It may very well be. It could be 40 weeks. It could be 40 days. You know what I'm saying? So, like how do I break that? How do I find my way? Like a word for the lost generation. A
word for the lost generation. One is acknowledging the cycles for which they are and understanding how to identify a cycle. Anything that I think that you're not benefiting from, or that you're not growing from, or developing from, for your betterment. Is that a word?
Yeah, for betterment. Yeah.
All right. So I think if anything, I can say for me, a cycle is perfect example. So in college. I believe that's when Facebook was hot. It's still hot right now. I think Instagram is more hotter now, but Facebook was like hot, 2011, 2012. And so my freshman year, I decided to cancel my Facebook. And I went to school in West Virginia. So that was my connection to everybody, my family and Florida and everything. And I canceled it, but I canceled it more so because it was taking time away from the time I needed for myself, for the growth, for my assignments.
Right.
I would be up till 3 a.m. knowing that I had a paper due and a speech in the same day.
Right.
But I would be trying to see what my boyfriend doing on Facebook.
Right.
So.
Right, the Facebook stalking.
That's
Right.
I wouldn't.
Lurking.
That's kind of.
Lurking.
I mean, I guess that's what it's called.
That's what it's called now. That's what it's
I mean,
called
I
now.
guess yes. So I decided to go ahead and I still have yet to get any type of social media just because I'm really enjoying the peace.
Wow.
Now that's not to say
that's
I'm
right.
not going on anyone's social media. You can still type in Google and see what the latest things are, but I'm enjoying that piece of not feeling like I'm bounded by likes. I'm not bounded by someone's acceptance of me.
Wow.
But then I also feel like it's a habit and it's a chore that I'm gonna have to do day after day if I continue on. So I'm kind of enjoying the freedom from that.
Man, that's a deep testimony. That's so
for
deep because I think so many people are caught up in that. That's a cycle that so many people like struggle to break. Is the cycle of like social media, the need for social affirmation, digital affirmation in the digital space. That's it's not real, right? It's our best curated events from our life, and people just feel the need to be affirmed through that. Like that's powerful. That's really powerful. Paige, talk to me. Like, what you thinking?
Like Kiara said, you gotta kind of acknowledge the cycle that you're in.
Right.
But you also gotta recognize, like you said, you don't have to be accepted by anybody.
Right.
I think this generation is attached to social media. I have social media,
Right.
so I get it. I want to see what's going on with my friends.
Right.
I want to see what's going on with my people.
Yeah.
But when I was in school, I wasn't on it, like at all. And it was just because you do need that time away. You do need that time to decompress and not trying to think, okay, what kind of filter can I put on this picture? Or what time should I post so I can get the most likes? Or so everybody can see it, so I can get comments. Oh, girl, it's like a whole, Instagram is like a job. It's like a sport.
It is.
And then we came out with Snapchat, and then we came out with the Insta stories. But I always say that the best moments in your life are not captured.
Right.
So everything that happens, I mean, yes, you graduate college, you got pictures.
Right.
But I don't know. It's just something that you can't capture. Everything cannot be captured in a picture.
That's so true.
Also, we need to kind of shy away from the stigma. A lot of people don't recognize that mental health is real.
Yep.
And that's kind of a big thing in our generation right now.
Yep.
A lot of people don't want to get help. It's okay to say that you're struggling. It's okay to go talk to a counselor, a therapist, a pastor. We got counseling service here at our church.
Indeed.
I think that people oftentimes isolate themselves and don't ask anyone for help, and so you kind of drown in silence. And I just want people to know that it's okay to get help. I mean, I know so many people. I work in the hospital now, and I've seen so many kids, even like the generation that's coming up behind us, they don't know how to cope. They don't know how to deal with their emotions and feelings. So they tend to choose other choices, put in like a permanent plan to a temporary problem. So,
but is that generational, not dealing with the feelings? Because it could.
I think it starts from people above us.
Right. I think it starts. I honestly believe family.
Yeah.
If you
we don't talk about it.
If you don't feel as if you're shown love, appreciation at 5 or 6, you definitely won't know exactly how to express it or to even call it love. So, I mean, I definitely think that, it's definitely something that we need to speak on, but it's also something that's generational as well. That it needs to be untaught, and then we need to relearn exactly how to express ourselves emotionally. And many times we go to social media because we've seen many deaths on social media, on Facebook, you know, so I definitely, and they capture it live, if anything, because if anything, they're seeking for attention, because that's not what was shown earlier. So I definitely think, thank you for raising that point. So
a lot of families that just people kind of that I've seen, they don't talk about the problems. If they go to their parents and say, I'm having an issue, the parents seem like, oh, you'll be all right. You know, you good.
I made it through.
You being dramatic.
I made it through. You good. You can make it through.
You're being dramatic.
And they don't recognize that was their cry for help.
That's right.
And other things tend to happen after that. So luckily, like my parents, if I tell them I'm struggling, we're going to sit and we're going to talk about it.
That's right.
We're going to pray. We're going to figure out our plan. But not every family has that, and not every child has that, or even our age.
And as we're talking about these
and
ideas,
it kind of just comes down from the top. And,
as you talk about like cycles, though, that's so important, right?
Yeah.
I mean, it's sort of dismissed because in the previous generation it was dismissed, and then the previous generation maybe wasn't recognized in order to understand what to do and how to respond.
There were other struggles they felt were more important.
right.
I think of it as survival versus thriving.
Right.
Right? That for so long we've had generation upon, again, talk about cycles, we got to break. So many generations of African Americans, the struggle was to survive. Right? That's the cycle. Just survive. Just get through the day. And so now we're in a different kind of, we've got to transition from survival to a sort of thriving model. And it's so difficult if you don't have those resources because of the cycles of dismissal and delay and denial and so forth and so forth and so on. I think that's rich. I think that's rich. What did y'all think about, I'm thinking about, again, cycles, generational cycles,
Right.
social cycles.
Right.
Like, I think we can kind of pivot and kind of talk about kind of this cycle of, if I had to start with the most grim, like the cycle of Black death that we kind of seeing here in Dallas with Botham Jean, Joshua Brown, Tatiana Jefferson. You can just kind of go on and on and on. Like, connected to these sort of deep personal experiences are a deeper level of social cycles, right, that we're kind of trapped in, right? As a society, it feels like the society is trapped in a cycle. We got a president or powers that be, right, to sort of reinforce
Right.
the worst
Powers
aspects, right?
that
The
be,
powers that be
yeah.
to sort of reinforce the worst aspects of the culture of American society. So as much as we try to move toward a post-racial, integrated, cosmopolitan vision, we go back to what feels like, man, 1958, 1960 all over again, right, to a
Or
certain
just
degree.
1619 all over again.
I mean, so like let's talk about those broader social cycles. Like how do we break that? And I think we are the change that we wish to see, but sometimes it's easier said than done. Talk to me about that. How do we move that needle? How do we move forward on that?
First,
Yeah, come on, theology student.
what? Future, not.
Okay,
not
all right, future. Okay.
Okay.
Speak those things.
Yeah.
So let's acknowledge them for what they are, but then also let's not just leave them on social media and just express how we feel on social media about them and feel as if, okay, we can go back to our real lives.
Yeah.
Because as we're going back to our real lives, the system still is going to work against us.
It's a cycle.
And it's a cycle. It's literally a cycle, and it's a system all together in one.
Right.
So I think we need to come up with strategies, exactly. But first, let's acknowledge them for what they are, and identify what they are in many of the spaces and places that we are. We experience racism every day. However, we've become accustomed to it, and we don't realize it. So you ask what exactly are we going to do about these cycles? Well, how do we know we're experiencing them? We've become you
Wow.
know.
So
like
accustomed to
easily. So it's like, how am I supposed to know that, oh, you really just made a pass at me and you're biased toward me because of this if I didn't recognize it? And I mean, it's not at home because, my mother is surviving, so she's not worried about the system. She's worried about putting food in my mouth. So we need to first identify them for exactly first what they are, and then come together regardless on how we feel about certain issues, because I think many times we are divided about certain issues because we don't agree on exactly what way to go. And so, but if you looked at, what was the video with Killer Mike, Candace, and T.I.?
Right.
And Killer Mike said exactly, it's not about the fact that we don't agree on all these issues.
Right.
We need to all come together and talk about these issues first and then go about what the best plan is for us. It's
Right.
not about who has the best plan individually.
Right.
So first we need to identify what they are and what they are when we see them as well, when we experience them.
That's that divide and conquer cycle.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Think
Oh,
about
yeah.
that. That's the divide and conquer cycle, right? So, I mean, I do think that we got to be clear about how, who we build with, and maybe distinguish, make sure that we're in allegiance with people whose politics
Right.
reflect our own.
Right.
That doesn't mean that it's always going to be the same people
Right.
every time. Doesn't mean that I can't lock arms with people who think differently think differently from me. But definitely we got to find a way, I think, to bridge those gaps, because our situations are really common.
Yeah.
They really do come from a common place. They really do have a sort of common, it's a common antagonism.
Oh, yeah.
But again, the cycle of divide and conquer, the cycle of silence, the cycle of acceptance, I think keeps us blinded, right? We are going around that mountain, right, over and over and over again. And so here we are, 50 years removed from the civil rights movement, and it feels like we're kind of going back through, you know what I'm saying, through the same kind of experiences of our ancestors, of our grandparents, right. You know what I'm saying? Let's break the cycle. Paige, talk to me. How do we break that cycle? What you thinking?
I also was thinking, like, we need to start voting in local elections.
Break the cycle. Okay, all right. I like it.
I want to say, it's like you got to start from the ground up. You got to work with the little things.
Yep.
Figure out what's going on in your own area, DeSoto, Duncanville, Dallas, whatever.
Yep.
And kind of start looking at what they're talking about and what they're trying to do. We be voting people in, and they don't even be doing nothing.
Cycles. Cycles.
You know?
It's been a long time. Come on.
So,
Come on now.
they ain't doing nothing.
Right.
So, local elections, city council.
That's deep.
I don't know nothing about, like, the police chief and stuff like that. We need to kind of start making connections with them, having those conversations.
And understanding the language as well, because many times it can be a language, but we want to show up, but we don't really understand what exactly the issues we're facing, what the policies mean, who they're affecting.
Right.
Like, what is it connected to? So, I mean, I'm passionate about it, but where do I start? How can you break the system down for me?
Yeah.
Right.
You know what I mean?
We
So
don't know. Yeah.
Right.
When I went to UTA, I went to University of Texas at Arlington. Okay. We had an event in NAACP with UT or Arlington PD, and just to kind of get their aspects on things, just to pick their brain on how certain things work, even if it was like little things like speeding tickets, up to bigger things, you know, like just to try to figure out how things work on their end,
to
break
help
the
cycle.
us to break the cycle.
Yeah.
And so little stuff like that can happen. It's almost like we got to start. We got to take baby steps.
Yeah.
And it sucks because so much needs to be done, but we got to start somewhere.
Got to start somewhere. Baby steps away from the mountain.
Away from
Baby
the
steps
mountain.
away from the mountain.
Going north.
Going north. The direction God told us to go. I love it. Kiara, you said you went to school in West Virginia.
I did.
What was that like? I'm just interested. I'm curious about what like racism was like, or if you had any, you may have not had any experiences of racism in West Virginia. Don't let me assume. What was that like?
I know for sure, I can give you two experiences. I know for sure, one, if I wasn't bringing in any money to the school, being a student athlete, I definitely would have experienced many encounters with racism for sure. I can definitely tell you that. So wearing like a Marshall hoodie to a Tom Thumb, they were definitely like, oh, so they identified me as, oh, so you're bringing in money to the school and everything like that, because Marshall is really big. It has this big tradition. It's also a movie, We Are Marshall. Go cop it. So I definitely want to say I would have experienced more racism if I wasn't an athlete. Again, even being a student athlete even has some ties into racism, but we'll deviate from that right now. And so then I remember a teammate, her father would not come to our track meets because I'm now ashamed to say it, but he wouldn't come to the track meet because he felt as if she had more black teammates who she ran with. Wow. She ran on the 4x4 with us. Wow. So he felt as if, your team isn't diverse enough for me to want to come out to it. And she was a long sprinter. But she had a great 400 time. But yeah, he wouldn't come out to the meets, and she specifically told us that once all of our families came to like a big regional meet, and we asked her, where was your family, so we can all take pictures, and she told us after, of course, when we got back in the bus, what was going on. And so I didn't realize it was that real, because it was 4 years ago. I just graduated 4 years ago, and that's real life. So yeah, those are two experiences, but I can definitely tell you, if I wasn't bringing in any money for people who didn't look like me, I know for sure I would not have been as accepted or appreciated at that.
Speaking of breaking cycles, the NCAA is getting ready to let student athletes make money off their own sort of their personal image. What do you think about that?
I finally agree with 2 Chainz. Actually made a song about it.
2 Chainz.
2 Chainz, okay. NCAA, and 2 Chainz and T.I. are actually getting more involved on issues like this. I think that's why I'm sort of now listening more to them. But I totally agree with it. If I am, because many times they feel as if, I'm just be honest, we are enslaved to the paper,
right.
the LOI, the letter of intent. Once we sign our name, we are their property. And so I remember telling my coach at we made some regionals, I told him I didn't want to run the 4x4, I wanted to run the 4x1. He told me next time I felt like that, he'll send me my pink papers, which means you're going back home. You don't have the scholarship anymore. And so I can definitely tell you, if I'm working hard, if I'm busting my tail off, I believe.
I like the way you put that.
I mean, that's just what it is. If I'm busting my tail off day in and day out, if I'm sacrificing my rest, if I'm sacrificing my academics, literally, that's something that needs to be talked about, then I believe I am owed what's due to me. So I definitely agree with it. Sometimes I wish I was back, in college so I can
get some of that paper.
Get some of that paper. But I mean, hey, but hey.
West Virginia makes me think about Wyoming, which makes me think about Kanye West. Let's talk about the Kanye cycle, because it feels like. Let's talk about the Kanye cycle, because I mean, I grew up on college dropout. I'm from that generation. That's how old I am.
Late registration? Was that after that?
Late registration after college.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. So that's when I am. Okay.
I'm college dropout.
Oh, wow.
Okay, so Kanye has these cycles. He's on it. He's speaking for the culture. And then he takes this turn towards some crazy. He goes off
somewhere, and then
he comes back. And then
full circle. No, really, really.
Comes back, and then he goes to Utah and says something crazy, and it's like, oh, he's going again. Jesus King came out. It's gospel. It feels good. It sounds good. Like, you don't want to like it, but you can't help liking it.
You gotta listen to Chick-fil-A.
I'm not saying it's better than anything Kirk ever did. Kirk is the first person to kind of take us there sonically.
Yeah, acknowledge him for what he is. Yeah,
big ups to Kirk Franklin for all that. What Kanye is doing is revolutionary, but it's connected to some problematic politics. Yeah. Which I think about the Kanye cycle.
So first of all, I was driving in the car, and I heard this song on the radio. And I was like, oh, okay, this song kind of good. And I was listening to my satellite radio, and it was the gospel station. And I clicked to see what song it was, and it was one of Kanye's songs. And I was like, wow. I mean, I'm actually kind of liking this. I'm liking it.
You liked it.
But then I started to feel a little bad because of everything that he kind of has done, and the things he said has been like off the wall. I don't know. Jesus is King is kind of dope.
And it's a dope message.
And I don't think people want it to be dope because of what he has done and who he is.
Right.
But, I mean, we can't judge people, right? We're not supposed to judge.
Right. Are we supposed to forgive, right?
We're supposed to forgive.
And provide that space, that open space for.
But it's like, ooh, but you went and hung out with the doctor. You went and, talked to him. And you went and did other things.
Yeah, went and got a hat for it too.
Yeah. And now you're trying to come back full circle with a gospel album?
It could be not trying to come back though. Like, my fear is that it's an opportunity to kind of capitalize.
There you go. And that's
too.
I don't know if this is a
another cycle,
journey.
Though.
Is it a spiritual journey?
Yeah.
Or is it capitalizing off of religion?
Or capitalizing off your spiritual journey. What if it is a legitimate spiritual journey, but you capitalizing off of it because you're a capitalist, and that's
what you do.
That's what you do. You know what I'm saying? The Kardashian machine is well oiled, well healed, and it won't stop until it has everything black. So I don't know. I think
you got mixed emotions.
Yeah, I'm with you. I feel the same way. Like, I want to offer space for redemption, and at the same time, like, you got to seek forgiveness, right? It says seek ye first the kingdom, and it has to be legitimately sought, right?
Right.
And so this is I think this is where that personal faith and that social justice faith, I think, sort of meet. Is where my personal lived experience for Jesus result in the continued oppression of somebody else? If it does, then I should be evaluating my vision and my understanding of Jesus, right? If I'm the only one benefiting, if I'm the only one coming up, everybody else is sort of being exploited. It's other voices. Think about it. It's other voices who are kind of making the new Kanye sound. It's not Kanye, which has been in the past, like a masterful producer, halfway decent lyricists, but it's other people's voices that are lending like credibility to this new sound and this new turn. So if other people are being stifled, stymied, I'm the only one coming up, and I'm doing it in the name of Jesus, I think I got a responsibility to take a look at my understanding of Jesus. Kiara, am I wrong?
I just think that's probably why the court is still out as far as I'm concerned on Kanye, because I am still forgiving Kanye. I think for me, that's a process.
Yeah.
Don't get me wrong. Like I said, the Chick-fil-A Sunday song is dope. I play it at work, and all of my coworkers, we laugh at it. That's what actually wakes us up. Because, but I definitely, as far as the spiritual journey, if that's a spiritual journey, by all means, you know. But at the same time, I can't say I will participate in it right now. So
you're not gonna participate?
I can't participate right now. So.
Man, Kanye, if you're listening, we want to love you, brother.
Sorry.
Come talk to Pastor Haynes, man. I feel like a conversation with Pastor Haynes would do you some good, man.
Yeah.
Most definitely.
And I was vibing on the life of Pablo. I was like, okay, you trying to do a little something.
That's real obscure, Kanye. That's
I haven't heard.
I'm with it. I'm not judging. I'm just saying.
I liked it a little bit. I was like, okay. I mean, if you listen, I mean, some of the lyrics is a little, you know.
Absurd. Yeah. Raunchy.
But Jesus walks, though.
With me. But that was way before.
That was way before.
That was a little bit before. What was that on?
Because I know he said he
Jesus
wanted to
Walks is a college dropout, right?
He said he wanted to change some of the lyrics to Jesus Walks because of where he is in his life right now. And so I don't know if I would want him to change why not show that progression? Why not leave it as it is and show that progression?
What do you think about him asking his wife to wear more clothes? What you think about that?
Oh, on the Met Gala.
I think so, yeah.
It was dealing with that outfit. He felt as if it was his wife, and you know, I still have some issues toward that. I'm gonna just call it what it is. I think it's sexist.
On Kanye's part.
On Kanye's part, to feel as if since you're my wife, you should do this, this, and this. I mean, what is Kim property? I mean, regardless of how we feel, is she property? She's a woman. She does the same thing that you're doing. You all are both. I don't even know what Kim does anymore, but I know she's making millions and billions. So it is what she's doing something right. Yeah. But what I'm saying is, as far as him feeling as if he can dictate what his wife wears, him designing her clothes, regardless if he's flying in and out of the country. I know he's doing that too to make sure he has the best clothes for her or whatever. I still feel as if he is dressing a dog. That's how he feels. That's what he feels he's doing.
Kanye got some cycles under himself that he needs to break. Yo, this has been great. I want to do this again. Can we do this again?
Sure.
Soon? Can we? Okay. It'll probably be some other voices at the table besides myself, but I mean, I think I want to keep you guys as the core of this team. You guys are awesome tonight. You all have been listening to The Breakdown with the Tribe.
The Breakdown.
The Breakdown with the Tribe here, Friendship West. We are that Ratchet Righteous arm. Can I keep that? Should we keep that?
Yeah,
y'all like that? The Ratchet Righteous arm
like
of the game-changing Christian movement that is Friendship West here in Dallas, Texas, where the Reverend Dr. Frederick Douglass Haynes III is our senior pastor. We've been here with Kiara Haynes, Ms. Paige Henderson. I'm yours truly, David Malcom McGruder. Thank y'all.
All right.
Thank
Peace.
you.
The narrative of the life of Frederick Douglass.
Right.
I literally just started reading that like 3-4 days ago.
Powerful. He's been a model for me because, again, he used his skills of oratory in order to impact the world, set people free, and really change a nation.
Yeah, and he made me feel like this is one of the reasons we have to be engaged with political leaders.
Oh, no question.
You know what I'm saying? Like a lot of people like to call you, oh, you Uncle Tom, you're a sellout if you're engaging with political leaders, but I think that you have to be.
Right. As far as I'm concerned, he pushed Abraham Lincoln to do what Lincoln did.
Absolutely.
And so that is an unsung part of our history, but you don't have an Emancipation Proclamation without the influence and the exertion of power that Frederick Douglass, who self-taught himself how to read, how to write, and use that skill in order to impact a nation.